Before he ever threw a pass for Cleveland, Shadur Sanders had already won over the locker room. Coaches saw the reads. Players felt the leadership. Yet when the season started, it was Dillon Gabriel jogging out on first downs. And Shedeur? Watching from the sidelines despite every indication he'd earned more. Then came the tweet, a quiet symbol not of surrender but of exposure. It wasn't just about his current status. It was about a pattern of bias, one that has followed him not because of anything he's done, but because of who his father is. Deion Sanders built a legacy. Now Shedeur is being punished for it.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Still, Shedeur doesn't flinch. He waits, he works, and he believes. His patience isn't passive, it's strategic. And as his faith-driven mindset draws attention for all the right reasons, his case forces a bigger question. How many other players have been held back not for lack of talent, but for who they are? The league's future depends on its answer. And Shadur Sanders might just be the turning point it didn't see coming. The tweet said everything without spelling anything out. That's how you knew it hit a nerve. Shadur Sanders didn't have to tag the Browns. He didn't need to name names. He didn't drop stats or clap back at critics. He just posted something so simple, so quietly symbolic, that it stopped NFL Twitter in its tracks. It looked like a white flag. It read like resignation. But what it actually was exposure. A soft-spoken way of saying, I get it now. This isn't about football. And let's not pretend anyone was surprised. Because for weeks, months even, the signs were there. Cleveland had a QB problem, not because they lacked options but because they refused to acknowledge the best one sitting right in front of them. Shadur Sanders, by every reasonable standard, had earned more than the clipboard and a spot in warm-ups. But still he sat. Still he waited. Still they rolled with Dillon Gabriel. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because Dillon isn't the issue, not personally, not even necessarily as a player. He's doing what any young quarterback would do in his shoes. He's taking the snaps, running the offense, trying to keep the seat warm. But let's call this what it is, a team choosing the safe narrative over the correct one. Because Shedeur has outperformed him. Period. Not based on hype. Based on performance. Based on mechanics. Based on decision-making. Based on everything that matters in real quarterback evaluation. But the Browns? They've remained locked into a pattern the NFL knows all too well. Favoritism and quiet bias disguised as team decisions. There's no football reason to keep Shedeur benched this long. Not when the offense is struggling. Not when the team is losing games. Not when the fans are demanding a change. And certainly not when your backup quarterback has already proven he's more prepared than your starter. So why hasn't the change happened? That's the question no one inside the building wants to answer. Because once you start peeling back the layers, what you find underneath isn't flattering. It's not game plan. It's not chemistry. It's not reps. It's reputation. It's legacy. It's the name Sanders. From day one, Shedeur has carried more than just expectations. He's carried the weight of being Deion Sanders' son. And whether people want to admit it or not, that name doesn't open every door. It closes plenty. It makes NFL organizations nervous. Because with it comes media attention, public scrutiny, and a spotlight they can't dim. Teams don't always want that. Especially when it comes attached to a young player who, inconveniently, is also really good. Because if he wasn't good, the decision would be easy. You bury him, move on, and let the media call it development. But when he is good, when the tape tells a different story than the depth chart, that's when the pressure builds. And the Browns haven't handled that pressure well. Instead of leaning into talent, they've leaned into denial. Instead of giving Shedeur a fair shot, they've treated him like a risk. Not because of anything he's said. Not because of anything he's done. But because of what they think he represents. They see flash. They assume entitlement. They see confidence. They call it arrogance. They see Deion's son. They assume Shedeur didn't earn it. And yet, anyone paying attention knows that's not the reality. Shedeur has been the definition of composed. No drama. No outbursts. No shade thrown. Just steady professionalism and trust in a bigger plan. His response to being sidelined hasn't been bitterness. It's been maturity. He's leaned into his faith. He's kept showing up, kept preparing, kept doing the work. And still it wasn't enough. That tweet wasn't just a personal reflection. It was a mirror held up to the league. A league that still finds a way to punish players not for what they lack, but for who they are. Because this isn't just about Shedeur. This is about every player who's been boxed in by assumptions. Every prospect who's been labeled a distraction because they didn't fit the mold. Every quarterback told to wait their turn while someone with less talent but fewer question marks got to take the field. This is systemic. And the Browns, intentionally or not, are now the face of it. Because when you've got a quarterback with the skill, the work ethic, the humility, and the leadership to change your offense, and you still don't play him, that's not an evaluation. That's avoidance. Even in blowouts when there's nothing to lose, they keep Shedeur on the bench. And that's not just a coaching decision, it's a statement. A quiet one. But it speaks volumes. It says, we'd rather protect our narrative than challenge it. We'd rather lose predictably than win uncomfortably. And that's why the tweet hit so hard. Because it confirmed what people were starting to suspect. That Shedeur wasn't being evaluated on merit. He was being managed, controlled, kept in the background. But talent doesn't stay in the background forever. It forces its way forward. It's already happening. You can feel it in the way fans are shifting. You can hear it in the media questions that are starting to get sharper. You can see it in how NFL insiders are starting to float quiet rumors, questions about what's really happening in Cleveland's QB room. They know this isn't normal. They know this isn't sustainable. And the longer it goes on, the worse it looks. Not just for the Browns but for the entire league. Because if the NFL wants to keep pretending that it's a league where the best player plays, this situation blows that narrative wide open. This is not an injury issue. This is not a readiness issue. This is not about patience. This is about preference. And that preference is costing a talented young quarterback his chance to show the world what he's made of. But here's the thing the Browns can't stop. Other teams are watching too. Scouts know what they're seeing. Coaches talk. GMs are already circling. Because once the Browns lose their grip, once the pressure forces their hand or Shedeur gets moved, somebody is going to benefit from this mistake. That's the part Cleveland should be most afraid of. Not just that they're wasting talent, but that they're letting it slip through their fingers only to watch it shine somewhere else. Shedeur's breakout moment is coming. Whether the Browns are the team to finally hand him the ball or whether someone else gets there first, it's going to happen. And when it does, all of this, the tweet, the benching, the silence, will be part of the backstory. A reminder of how close one team came to getting it right and how fast they let it go. And that will be the real legacy. Not Shedeur's name. Not his pedigree. But the way he handled all of it, with grace. With discipline. With faith. And without ever stooping to the level of those who doubted him. So if you've been following this, frustrated, watching a talented quarterback get boxed out by a system that still can't see past perception, drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you've had enough of favoritism in football. Share it with someone who still thinks this is about depth charts. And subscribe for more because Shedeur's story is far from over. And when that breakout comes, when he finally gets the chance he's already earned, we'll all remember who held him back. And who never stopped believing. At some point, the excuses just don't work anymore. There's only so many times you can say he needs to develop, or we're protecting his confidence, or we like our current situation, before the audience, the fans, the media, the players in the locker room, stops believing you. That's the reality staring the Cleveland Browns straight in the face. And the pressure isn't going away. It's only building week by week, loss by loss, snap by snap where Shadur Sanders isn't on the field. Because at a certain point, you can't keep calling it strategy when it's clearly about something else. And Shedeur? He's just waiting. He's done everything they've asked. Quietly. Consistently. Without distraction, without drama. While the noise around him has gotten louder, he's stayed in control. And that silence? That's power. That's what makes this so undeniable. Because when you take away the distractions, the headlines, the name, all that's left is the football. And the football tells a different story than the Browns' depth chart. It tells the story of a player who sees the field better, who moves with calm and confidence in the pocket, who knows how to lead without forcing it. Someone who walks into the huddle like it's his home. Someone who makes defenses hesitate, not because he's flashy but because he's efficient. And that's the part that's almost cruel. Because there are quarterbacks around the league getting chances without half of what Shedeur brings to the table. Guys with worse mechanics, less poise, more turnovers, still getting the benefit of the doubt. Still being called works in progress. Still being handed snaps on Sundays just to see what they have. But with Shedeur it's always a wait, a delay, a reason. And when he tweeted that white flag, whether literal or metaphorical, it was a signal. A moment of quiet honesty. One that told the world, I know what this is now. Not bitterness. Not defeat. But understanding. And once you understand the game, you stop pretending it's about performance. You stop waiting for fairness in a system that's built to move the goalposts. And that's what hits so hard. Because fans aren't just rooting for a quarterback. They're rooting for justice, for accountability, for common sense. Because this isn't a mystery. Everyone can see what's happening. Everyone knows Shedeur should have been playing by now. Which makes the Browns' silence that much louder. And let's be clear, this isn't just about benching a player. This is about the kind of message it sends to everyone watching. When the best guy in the room is being told to wait his turn without reason, it tells every other player on that team that merit doesn't matter. That politics win. That being quiet and doing the work won't always be enough. That's a dangerous message to send in a locker room. Because it chips away at culture. At belief. At trust. Players aren't dumb. They know who the leaders are. They know who's ready. They can feel it on the practice field, in the film room, during reps. And when they see that kind of player being ignored, that becomes a seed of doubt. And once doubt takes root, it's hard to shake. And the Browns? They're sitting right in the middle of it. Hoping no one notices, hoping this all just blows over. But it won't. Because this isn't just about Shedeur anymore. It's about something bigger. It's about how the NFL chooses who gets a real shot. And who gets held back. How legacy can be twisted into a liability. How character and composure can be dismissed if it comes from someone who doesn't fit the safe mold. And Shedeur, without even trying, has become the face of that conversation. Because when you look at what he's done, how he's responded, what he represents, it's clear. This league still doesn't know how to handle players who come in already knowing who they are. They want humble, but not too confident. They want legacy, but not if it makes people uncomfortable. They want character, but only if it's quiet, moldable, controllable. And when someone like Shedeur shows up with integrity, leadership, and readiness, but refuses to shrink to fit, suddenly he's not ready. He needs to sit. Let's give it time. But time is up. Because now the question isn't if he plays. It's how much longer they can justify not playing him. And every day that passes, every game he sits, the Browns just dig the hole deeper. Because when that moment finally comes, and it will, the entire story flips. The tweets will resurface. The conversations will change. The development excuse will dissolve. And it'll be clear to everyone that Shadur Sanders was ready long before they admitted it. That's what's coming. And whether it happens in Cleveland or somewhere else, because yes, other teams are watching, his time is not a matter of chance. It's inevitable. Because talent doesn't just fade out when it's ignored. It gets sharper, hungrier, more focused. And when it finally gets unleashed, it doesn't just prove people wrong, it rewrites the narrative completely. So what happens next? That's on Cleveland. They can continue playing defense, off the field, with their decisions, with their spin, or they can do the one thing they've refused to do all season. Let the best player play. Until then, Shedeur will keep doing what he's done since day one. Show up. Stay calm. Stay prepared. He doesn't need to scream to be heard. His silence has said more than a press tour ever could. And when the day comes that he finally walks onto that field, helmet on, ball in hand, the ones who kept him benched won't just be answering questions. They'll be rewriting history in real time. Because no matter how long they try to stall it, no matter how long they think they can delay the inevitable, talent always finds the field. When Shedeur finally steps onto that field and the crowd realizes what they've been missing, don't expect the NFL to suddenly take accountability. Because they won't. They'll act like this was the plan all along. Like this was part of a well-calculated development arc, perfectly timed to let the game slow down for him. They'll spin it into a fairy tale. Talk about growth, patience, and team strategy, like it wasn't painfully obvious that they were trying to keep him in the background for as long as possible. But you'll know. We'll all know. That what actually happened was this. A young quarterback walked into the league, more poised, more prepared, and more polished than anyone wanted to admit. And instead of being embraced for his maturity and talent, he was penalized for his last name. For his lineage. For the fact that he didn't need to be molded, because he already was. That's what makes this entire saga so frustrating. Shedeur did everything right. He didn't ask for special treatment. He didn't carry himself with entitlement. He didn't weaponize his father's name. He just showed up, stayed locked in, and did the work. All while knowing the deck was stacked against him, not because of who he is, but because of how others perceive who he is. And instead of applauding that, the Browns benched it. That's where this stops being about football and starts becoming something much bigger. Because we're not just talking about one quarterback getting overlooked. We're talking about a pattern. A mindset. A league-wide issue where players who don't fit the mold get labeled before they ever get a fair shot. How many times have we seen it? Players with personality, get written off as distractions. Confident black quarterbacks get pegged as cocky. Legacy kids get slapped with the label entitled. And meanwhile, guys with half the talent but the right background? They get chance after chance to fail upward. It's not just an evaluation problem. It's a cultural one. And Shedeur's story puts it on blast. Because this wasn't about waiting his turn. This wasn't a slow build toward a meaningful debut. This was a franchise choosing comfort over courage. Choosing optics over output. And when Shedeur finally said something, he didn't rage, he didn't throw anyone under the bus. He posted a white flag. A tweet that said, "I get it. You're not going to give me a real shot." And that moment? That was a bigger play than anything Cleveland has called this season. Because it exposed the system. Quietly. Strategically. Unapologetically. And now the Browns are in a corner. Because now everyone is asking questions. The fans. The media. Other players. Other teams. And if they weren't already thinking it, they definitely are now. If Cleveland isn't going to play Shedeur, someone else will. And here's the thing. When that happens, it's not going to be a slow start. There will be no adjustment period. No cautious rollout. It's going to be immediate. Because Shedeur's been ready. He's been waiting. And when that first snap hits, he's not going to blink. Because this isn't new to him. He's been under the lights before. Under the microscope. Under the weight of expectations. And every single time he's risen. Why? Because pressure is the default setting when your name is Sanders. And when you've carried that pressure with the grace, composure, and work ethic that Shedeur has, you don't need hype. You don't need marketing. You don't need spin. You just need one shot. One drive. One game. And suddenly, the people who doubted him the loudest will be pretending they saw it coming. That's how this works. The moment he shows out, everyone in Cleveland's front office is going to pivot. Talk about how he's grown. How they always knew this would be his moment. How competition makes the team better. Don't fall for it. They didn't believe in him. They tried to hide him. And now they're going to act like they were protecting him. But protection isn't keeping your best option off the field while your offense crumbles. Protection isn't staying silent while a quarterback with integrity and maturity gets minimized in front of the entire league. What Shedeur needed wasn't coddling. It was opportunity. And the Browns failed to provide it. But the story doesn't end there. Because the NFL isn't static. The eyes of every coordinator, assistant GM, and quarterback coach are wide open now. And whether they say it out loud or not, they're planning. Because talent doesn't sit for long. When you have a quarterback who can extend plays, manage a locker room, lead with poise, and actually win, that doesn't stay buried. That becomes value. That becomes leverage. That becomes the answer some other team is looking for. And the Browns? They'll be remembered for wasting it. For letting narrative drive decisions. For sidelining talent in favor of safety. For being too scared to admit that the guy they tried to bench was the guy they needed all along. Shedeur isn't waiting for validation. He's not begging for approval. He's not pleading for a starting role. He's just watching, learning, grinding, preparing. Because when you know your worth, you don't force your moment. You let it come to you. And when it does, the people who kept the door shut will have to sit back and watch it swing wide open for someone else. The day Shadur Sanders finally trots onto the field, visor low, jaw set, and silence in the stadium, you won't hear a single excuse from the people who kept him on the sidelines. They'll be scrambling, backpedaling, pretending this is all part of the master plan. But we'll know better. Because we've watched this unfold. We've seen a quarterback who, by all accounts, should be starting. Not just for potential. Not just for pedigree. But because he's better. Better decision maker. Better under pressure. Better built for the moment. The Browns had all the evidence. They had the player. They had the chance. And they blew it. Because of fear. Because of legacy bias. Because of the name on the back of the jersey. That's what this really comes down to. The NFL still doesn't know how to handle players who carry more than just talent. They carry identity. They bring narratives with them, and some franchises just aren't equipped to handle the weight of that. So instead of stepping up, they shrink. That's what Cleveland did. They shrunk. And they tried to act like it was strategy. But benching Shadur Sanders wasn't strategy. It was self-preservation. It was a franchise avoiding accountability, avoiding disruption, and avoiding the one thing that could have saved them, change. Now they're watching the clock tick down because the door they kept closed is starting to crack. The pressure is building. The fans are louder. The questions are getting sharper. And Shedeur? Still calm. Still waiting. Still ready. He knows he doesn't have to kick the door in. It's going to open, on its own. Because real talent doesn't fade away. Real leadership doesn't go unnoticed forever. And when he gets the shot, he's not going to be out there playing angry. He's going to be playing prepared, which is way more dangerous. He's been benched, dismissed, and ignored, not because he couldn't play but because they didn't want him to prove that he could. And when he does, when the world sees it, there won't be a debate anymore. There will just be the scoreboard. So if you've been waiting, really waiting, for the NFL to finally wake up, to finally reward the guys who do things the right way, then buckle up. Because Shedeur's moment is closer than ever. Like the video if you're done with excuses. Comment if you've been calling this out. Share it with someone who still thinks the NFL runs on merit alone. And subscribe, because the minute Shedeur gets that start, we'll be back here with the receipts. This isn't a comeback story. It's a correction.